All right, everybody, welcome to the Gridiron Collective. I am your host, Mr. Authentic, with our YouTube free 3 NFL ATS picks. Last week was a stinker. Last week we did fucking terrible. We went 0-3, not getting a single game right. It's becoming that time of year where things get all kind of fucking crazy, and teams are vying for playoff positioning, and teams are trying to play spoiler. It happens all the time. I just take the Seattle and San Francisco game, for example. I was completely wrong about that game. And as much as I should have went with my instincts of fearing the upset special against a divisional opponent, I felt that San Francisco didn't have what it took to take down Seattle. However, that proved to be a different story. So I guess let's take a look at what went wrong, because nothing went right. Our first play we had was Dallas over Indianapolis plus 2.5. We kind of figured that the Cowboys were doing so well on the road. The addition of Amari Cooper, they were riding so high. The defense were completely full of themselves, and it seems like they were completely full of shit as far as their identity goes. Indianapolis had their way with them. What started with the blocked field goal ended with a complete dismantling and shutout of a Dallas Cowboys team by the Indianapolis Colts. One thing that was made very clear on Sunday is that the Colts offensive line are complete studs. Dallas's offensive line at times looked lost despite Zeke doing what he can and what he normally does. Zeke always does his thing despite poor line play. Say what you want about the linebacking core of Vander Esch and Smith. As far as them being super talented and whatnot, what I saw last week was more emphasis on my original opinion on them, and that's, they're great in coverage. They're great out there in coverage. They're great at, watching the quarterback's eyes, but poor tackling. Poor tackling, and just an inability to get off blocks to stop the run. Both those guys are going to be a strength and a weakness. They've impressed me in coverage, as I said, but they're both lacking in a big way, and that's going to be concerning for this Dallas team going forward. The Colts took a lead early, 10-0, when Dallas allowed Indy to come down the field before halftime to get up even more. From that point, it was pretty much all Indy all game. They controlled the clock, hit T.Y. Hilton deep. That showed a lot of uncertainty against speed for the Dallas secondary. With a huge deficit, Dallas were forced to pass, getting away from what they do so well, and that's running the football with Ezekiel Elliott. It just showed how poorly of an offense they can have when Zeke's a non-factor. I should have trusted my instincts in going with home team, despite Amari Cooper being a huge difference maker for this Dallas team. Dallas loses again on the road, and after winning their last 2 games on the road, they catch a loss here. Indy was a much tougher match for the Cowboys than I expected, and the Cowboys came out completely flat, and they were just completely outclassed by the Colts team. Indy just might squeeze into the playoffs, so we'll see what happens. I think personally that it's going to go to Baltimore. They do have a tougher road to get there, but the team's defense and run game are what basically it should propel them forward late in the season. Those 2 elements usually bode well for teams. So look for Baltimore to continue making their push and holding on to that last seed. Secondly, we had the Seattle Seahawks over the San Francisco 49ers, minus 5.5. As spoken about earlier, it should have been a fucking surefire thing, and it turned into a giant piece of shit. Seattle, they couldn't even win the game, let alone cover the spread or get close to covering the spread. It's such a joke considering the amount of talent that the team has. I mean, young or not, Seattle is a much better team than the 49ers. I don't care about the final score. We all know the shitbirds should have won big. Doug Baldwin came out and did his thing early on, but the Seahawks missed an extra point. Seattle gave up a big kick return on the ensuing kickoff, and that led to San Francisco being up by a point. It was a nice start for San Francisco. Seattle gets the ball back, chokes, gives it right back to San Francisco, and San Francisco fumbles it away to Seattle. Seattle still couldn't do anything with the football. It led to blown coverages from Seattle's defense, secondary. Selleck got a score with Frisco once they had the ball back and created an even bigger lead. Baldwin helped Seattle respond before half at least, so he's a consistent playmaker for that Seattle team. San Francisco added a couple more field goals, and Seattle eventually marched down in the fourth quarter to tie the game with a touchdown that they had really, really, really had to earn. Mullins took San Francisco down the field immediately after that to get a field goal, take the lead again. Seattle responded with, Baldwin, and they got a field goal of their own to tie it up. Seattle had momentum heading into overtime, but, that muff return from Lockett just, followed by a massive holding penalty. Seattle was backed up facing 3rd and 14 and came up 6 yards short. Punted it to San Francisco. The rest is history. 49ers, started at their fucking 38-yard line, and thanks to a defensive pass interference followed by a big 16-yard run from Wilson, and the 49ers were lining, not to right Wilson, they were lining up to kick a 36-yard field goal for the win, and Gould hit it, dagger right in the fucking heart. Fuck Seattle. Our third play, we had New England Patriots over the Pittsburgh Steelers -1. I mean, it is what it is. We took a pissed off Patriots team on the road against the Steelers. They're really good on the road against the Steelers. They play well in Pittsburgh. It shouldn't have been a factor. The game started with fireworks, both teams scoring quickly on each possession. New England held it down after getting after Ben and causing some disruption for him, sacking him. But eventually Ben hit Antonio Brown on their I think it was third drive, and they took a 14-7 lead. Ben threw a pick before half, but New England they couldn't even capitalize on it. So uncharacteristic for them. In the third quarter, the Steelers had a chance to go up 17-7, but it was a botched kick. That shit went wide right. Terrible kick. It didn't matter. New England continued to suck on offense, and New England still ended up getting a field goal in the third quarter to be down by 4 points. But Pittsburgh continued to pick up big chunks on the ground, and New England got its second interception on a deflected pass. With the fourth quarter striking, it looked like Tom Brady was going to march down the field and take the lead. Instead, Brady threw off his back foot like a fucking rookie scrub and threw it right into the arms of Joe Hayden. Schittsburg took right over. Pigpen took the team down, and they got a field goal. And even with that and hardly any time left, New England still had a chance to tie the game. I mean, as crazy as it is, they had the ball at the 11-yard line, holding. Terrible holding penalty committed by Shaq Mason there. Pats were backed up to the 21. I mean, good luck. They never recovered, turning it over on downs. I mean, I was really impressed by New England's resiliency, in their fight. They never gave up. They never do give up. They should have had that game numerous times. It's just more so of like Pittsburgh is a pretty good team, and they've been losing so much that it was just bound to happen. They were bound to snap that streak. I really didn't think it was going to come against New England, but New England showed the road warned signs by making big mistakes in big situations. I feel like they will get right this week at home against the Bills, who have a defense that plays up and a quarterback that is unpredictable in what you might get. Simple-minded, but sometimes shit just kind of goes right for him. Josh Allen is kind of like the Forrest Gump of NFL quarterbacks. We'll see if New England gets right with that. I still don't know if I'm going to touch the game with such a big point spread, and there's going to be a lot of money on it. Vegas will probably be looking to cash that one in. If anything, you might want to fade the Patriots and take the points with the Bills. All right, so this week let's try to get right and see what we can do with our free three. Our first play, we're going to take the Ravens over the Chargers plus 4.5. This game, I kind of basically was leaning towards the Ravens. Even before they were underdogs, you give me points and I'm going to take the Ravens. Chargers haven't lost since November 18th against the Broncos, which, let me just get a moment to gloat there. Anyways, the way the Broncos stopped the Chargers was with great defense and a great ground game. That's two things that Baltimore is even better at than Denver. I have a feeling that these Chargers are riding the ultimate high with their head in the clouds. They just beat the Chiefs, clinching their spot in the playoffs. Do the Chargers want to win the West? I mean, I'm sure they do. However, I don't see it happening. For whatever reason, mainly the fact that there are, is no one here in LA that really likes the Chargers. They're trash at home, mainly against the spread, but they play like shit. Baltimore plays on the road, and the style of football they love to play works well into, the game, and the way that the game will probably flow. I see this game staying under, and the underplay should favor Baltimore, who is stronger on the ground, stronger defensively. Baltimore is coming to a game where they need to win. They cannot afford to lose any of their remaining games with teams like Indy and Tennessee breathing down their necks. The Ravens will not let up in the secondary the way Kansas City did. The Ravens will utilize their extremely talented pass rush and get after the Chargers quarterback Phillip Rivers. I think that Melvin Gordon is not healthy enough to be playing in a game as big as this one. Give me Baltimore to cover at least 3 points, if not win the game outright. Give me Baltimore plus 4.5. Of course, second play, we're going to take Miami Dolphins over the Jacksonville Jaguars minus 4.5. The Dolphins are a good team. They can't seem to get any breaks they need in order to get over the hump and consider themselves playoff contenders. It must be a disappointing season for Adam Gase and company, but they've shown in many games that they know how to fight until the very, very end. Miami has that kind of resolve that keeps them in games against some teams that they're considered way worse than. Despite the talent Jacksonville has on defense, the offense is completely trash, and they have been completely exposed every which way for the whole season. The quarterback change did nothing for them. The ground game can't get off, and it's a shit show in Jayville. Coughlin is done. Gus is going to be gone. The Cinderella story is fucking over. Ramsey was probably going to want out. It's a curtain call for Duvall. It doesn't look very good for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Miami doesn't seem like they really need much motivation to play football. They just seem like they love to go out and play each week. Granted, they aren't very good, but they do actually give a solid effort in most games. Last week they faced a buzzsaw Minnesota team that was mad at themselves for their piss poor performance that they had in the previous week. The Miami Dolphins, they managed to beat the Patriots and Bears, right? That's got to count for something. How quickly we forget that Miami was 3-0 before Tannehill went down against New England, and Miami ended up getting blown out by New England. With Tannehill, honestly, Miami beats Cincinnati, they beat Detroit, they beat Green Bay. I guarantee you that. I guarantee you those wins. And with that, they probably would have been in the Houston game as well. But Watson went off, and there wasn't really much that Miami could do to, hold him off. So I don't know if they would have won that game. But either way, that will leave Miami with a 10-4 record, sitting in first in the AFC East ahead of New England. Crazy what could have been. I could take this game and just view it for what it is at face value. This is a game where a team is floundering, lifeless, with major changes coming on the horizon against a team both young and hungry that was just one bad break away from sitting comfortably as a division leader and second seed in the AFC. Even if Jacksonville got wins against Indy, Buffalo, Pittsburgh, they'd still be 7-7, last in their division. That's trash. Give me the Dolphins to take out the Jags by one or more touchdowns. Miami minus 4.5. For our last play, we're going to take the Dallas Cowboys over the Buccaneers minus 7. Yeah, risky play, some might say. But we're going to take them back-to-back weeks. There's not a lot going on that says somehow, some way Nick Foles is going to lead a dramatic comeback for the Eagles, and he will, use some spiritual guidance and divine intervention that propels the Eagles past the Cowboys to win the NFC East. I don't buy it. I don't believe it. Let's put an end to all that bullshit this week. Come on, Dallas. You get to host the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They're one of the worst defenses in the league. Cowboys should completely be disgusted with how they performed against the Colts. They still have some issues on offense. I give you that. The line has been fucking up way too much. And aside from Cooper, someone on that Cowboys team's got to get open, whether it's Gallup or somebody else. The Bucs might be getting back Deshaun Jackson this week, which could cause some issues for Dallas, as they showed a tough time covering T.Y. Hilton last week. He plays very similar to Jackson, speedy receiver, stretching the field. Evans is already a tough cover for Dallas. He's a good receiver all around. But the main issues for Tampa Bay lies with Jameis Winston. How long is Jameis Winston going to be the quarterback for the Tampa Bay? They're not going to win much of anything so long as he's under center. Dallas can make mistakes all they want in this game, and they're still going to be fine. Winston is that type of quarterback that Van Der Esch and Smith, they're going to thrive on. Tampa Bay's defense is complete garbage. Cowboys should be able to roll easily and all day with this one, as they look up at the East and secure themselves a playoff spot. Give me Dallas by over a touchdown against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I can look at this is a must-win for them, and if they don't, then they are in serious trouble. Well, that'll do it for this week, everybody. Thank you again for tuning in. This is the Gridiron Collective. I am Mr. Authentic, your host. See you next week, and good luck, everybody.